Welcome back to the main stage, everybody. How was everybody's session? I know I was in the Hired Hippo session, a very slick platform, treating recruitment like a dating app. I loved the topics that we were covering. Let us know in the chat what you talked about, what you found insightful. We will be also having networking sessions at the end of the event, so another opportunity for you to connect. I'm really excited for our next performance of a comedic relief. We have Mark Anthony Synagoga, founder of Funny Man Inc., coming up shortly. We chose your comedian today not only because he's funny, but because he has a company that strives to battle mental health through comedy. He's performed at Just for Laughs, the Arizona Comedy Festival, the Dallas Comedy Festival, headlines at Absolute Comedy, and is here for us today. So please make a virtual round of applause for Mark Anthony.
Yes. What's going on, Benchmark community? How we feeling out there? Good? Well, this looks weird. Can everybody see me okay? Am I zoomed in too much? I mean, the technical difficulties have been extreme. I'm just going to take it on based on what I can see and really zoom out here. Is that better? Is that worse? I don't know why the lighting is killing me today. I look like some sort of fat Dracula, if you will. A lot of you are like, that's not the lighting, buddy. That's just winter. So that's what's going on. Guys, give Giorgio a round of applause for having me out here today. This is fantastic. I can't express how happy I am to be a part of this whole thing. This is great. As Giorgio mentioned, I have a company called Funny Man Inc. We've been producing shows for the past 10 years and has been absolutely awesome. Battling mental health with laughter, I feel like has been great. We try to produce shows in places that don't have a lot of comedy or live arts. And we've been channeling into the corporate sector in the past couple of years, and it's been great. So I'm going to just jump right into jokes if that works with you guys. Good, great. Can't hear any of you. Who cares? We're just going to go right into it. I don't know if any of you can tell, but this has sort of been my look for the pandemic. I don't know if you guys have locked in your pandemic look, but I've clearly gone for like Amish farmer. I'm not entirely sure what that's about, but my barber won't see me due to COVID and I can't stand it. I don't know, when the hair goes over the ears, you know what I mean? I just start getting irritated, you know? It's pretty awful right now. Good news though, during the pandemic, great thing happened to me. I got married, right? That's kind of cool. I don't know if cool is the right word, but yeah, it was one of those pandemic weddings where it was pretty much just me, her, and our parents. So that was kind of fun. Only weird thing is, I think I'm in the most unique situation ever where we're both married and we live at home still separately. Nothing says pandemic marriage like, hey, babe, you want to sleep over tonight? Like, it's kind of weird. I don't know. And like, our parents are just on our butts about like, hey, when are you guys going to have kids? But keep that door open up there. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty tough to, make this happen in this pandemic. It's pretty brutal. I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Mark Anthony. I don't sing. I don't cut hair. I don't know where J-Lo is. Okay, that's my real name. A lot of you are probably like, really? That's your name? You didn't choose that for show business? No. Why would I do that? That makes no sense. I used to love my name, guys. I used to walk around in elementary school like, guys, I'm Mark Anthony. I used to love it. And then I got into show business and I'm like, this is the worst thing ever. Okay. This is the worst. You know what I mean? Every time I go on stage, they're like, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Anthony. And everyone's like, what? No, he's here. And then I get on stage, they're like, who the hell is that? That is not him. I don't know who that is. You know what I mean? My parents might as well have named me The Rock Synagoga. You know what I mean? And they'd be like, ladies and gentlemen, The Rock. You'd be like, no way. And then I got on stage and you're like, that is not The Rock. That looks like a bunch of rocks in a garbage bag. That is awful. I don't know who that is. You know, my last name is Synagoga. I know it sounds like a Jewish nightclub, but I didn't choose it. So don't know what to tell you guys. I have this Spanish first name and this Jewish last name, which makes me Italian, right? That makes sense. We have any Italians here in the chat? Make some noise. Some of you, none of you. Okay, one heart, couple hearts. I know Giorgio's Italian. You know what I mean? Well, right? You're Italian. What does it matter? Okay. Yeah, I'm Italian, which means that I live at home with my parents who live at home with their parents. So the pandemic has been great, guys. There's about 900 generations in my house right now. It's pretty great. Me and my girl, that was our plan. Like, we did the opposite of common law. You know what I mean? Where we got married and lived separately to remain get the inheritance. Do you know what I'm saying? It's sort of like, we call it like third generation Italian law, where you just do squatters' rights, and then just hopefully the generations pass it on to us, and we just get to keep this house because, even though the mortgage rates are great, the houses are not plummeting yet, and I don't know how they expect a 30-year-old to make it in this world. Anyways, that's not your problem. You're like, Mark, stop venting to us, okay? I was taking notes during our first speaker. I was like, what did he say? What a TFSA? What the hell is that? You know what I mean? I was like, I got to figure out this whole TFRSP, BCSP. I don't know. I don't get it. Anyways, it's pretty impossible losing weight in an Italian household. I've been on a diet for the past 2 months. I started in December 1st because I was like, you know what? I'm going to go right through Christmas, because Christmas usually messes me up. I've been on a diet for 2 months, and I've lost about like 60 days. So I'm losing this battle, guys. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I only want to lose enough weight so I don't have to buy sitting shirts and standing shirts. Is that a thing for anybody here? Anybody have that problem? Like, I don't know if you can see my shirt. You can't, but it's a standing shirt, right? I don't look so bad here. I'm going to put the camera down for you a little bit so you don't see my socks or anything. You know what I mean? My boxers. Right? This is a standing shirt. Don't look that bad, right? And then you go to sit down. I don't even need to sit down. Look at this. What is this? Look at this, guys. 1, 2, 3. Look at this. I got all these, looks like bad 90s tearaways. I'm not even sitting down. Like, I can't go to a wedding till 2021, guys. This is embarrassing. Look, I got a summer tire, winter tire, couple of spares over here. You know what I'm saying? I actually named this button. I named it the Titanic button, because the whole shirt's just like, don't you let go, man. We got to make it through dinner. You know what I mean? So it's been fun. Can you see me better? Beautiful. Yeah, it's not bad. My mom can't stand that joke. She refuses to see me live anymore because she's just like, you know what? I don't know why you do that. You're not fat, you're tall. And I'm like, oh, okay. You have mom goggles on still? That's great. I'm clearly both. I don't know why it's one or the other. You know what I mean? I think it's because I love eating so much. You know what I mean? I love eating because it's the only thing I've ever done in my life where someone's ever been like, oh my God, his speed is impeccable. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just so good at it. I just keep shoveling. Like, sometimes I'm like my own food personal trainer. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys have one of these, but like, you eat quickly on purpose so that you sweat while you eat. So you're just like, go, 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 go. And you're just drenched. And you're like, look at this. Calories in, calories out. This is unbelievable. I don't know why no one's thought of this. You know what I'm saying? It's phenomenal. But it's weird though, because I used to be way bigger. Like, I've come a long way. I know that's hard to believe, but I used to be massive. I'm going to tell you a story about how fat I was as a child. This was in elementary school. I actually knew Giorgio back then. We went to the same elementary school. And one year in grade 8, last year of elementary school, I won the Halloween costume contest. Okay. So I went as Angus Young. For those of you who don't know who Angus Young is, he's the lead guitar player of AC/DC. Okay. Now, if you don't know who that is, then I guess just put me on mute. I don't know what to say. But, he had that iconic schoolboy getup with the horns on the hat, right? He was wearing a suit that was like shorts and stuff like that. And I knocked this costume out of the park. Like, I was like the best dressed. You don't even understand. It was unbelievable. We had an assembly that day, and my principal goes on stage, and he's like, ladies and gentlemen, while you're all here, we might as well do the Halloween costume contest right now. All right. I want all of you to see this. This is the greatest costume I have ever seen. If all of you could give him a round of applause, make some noise for Mark Anthony Synagoga as Meatloaf, everybody, and brought me on stage as Meatloaf, guys. I don't know if you guys remember Meatloaf, but at the time, I had no idea who Meatloaf was. So I went on stage and I was like, hey, Mr. Reed, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm not him. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm not Meatloaf. I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, then who are you? I'm like, I'm Angus Young. He's like, Angus Young? No, you're not. I'm like, I am. He goes, nope, you're not. I'm like, look, I got a guitar and my guitar says hell on it. He's like, yeah, Bat Out of Hell. I'm like, no, Highway to Hell. And he's like, listen, man, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're Meatloaf. And I'm like, I've only eaten it once. I don't even know what you're talking about. And he's like, listen, man, you either accept the award as Meatloaf or we're going to have to choose somebody else. And I'm like, well, what's the prize? And he's like, well, it's 2 free tickets to the movies. I was like, oh, okay. that's not bad. Does it come with any like concession or? And he's like, yeah, two large popcorn, two large drink. I'm like, then I'm meatloaf, dude. I don't give a shit. Like, who cares? I'll be meatloaf. And he's like, I knew you would do anything for butter. And I, at the time, I didn't know that that was a pun on I would do anything for love by meatloaf. And I was like, I don't get it, but all right, Mr. E, you know what I'm saying? And I went home and like, even my dad was like, oh, you changed up your costume? I'm like, no. He's like, oh, looks like you went as Jack Black from School of Rock. I'm like, what is happening right now? I Googled meatloaf as soon as I got home and I was like, holy, I look exactly like this guy. This is brutal. Unbelievable. And then I saw my principal a couple years ago at Vaughan Mills shopping mall. I bumped into him and he had no idea who I was. I'm like, hey, Mr. Reed, how's it going? And he's like, do I know you? I'm like, yeah, it's me, Meatloaf. And he goes, oh, yeah, that's right. The whole Meatloaf Angus Young thing. I tell that story every year. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because you're a loser. Of course you do. Like, you're just ruining kids' dreams one after the other. And he was just like, well, look at you, man. Like, you've thinned out. You look great now. I'm like, thank you very much. And then before I leave, he goes, now you're like both of them combined. And I was like, what does that mean? He goes, well, now you're like Angus beef. And I'm like, forget you, Mr. Reed. All right, we're done here. And I wanted to choke slam him, but I didn't. I was like, you're still ruining kids' dreams since day one. That's great. Guys, I'm pretty sure that's my time. That's about 10 minutes. Thank you guys so much, Benchmark. You guys have been awesome. I'm going to hand it back over to Giorgio. Hopefully the sound, was the sound and everything good?
Hi, Anthony.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Yes, you sounded great. I just wanted to jump in and say thank you so much. I was laughing over here like crazy. So thank you for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to stick around and listen to everybody else. Everyone's been great so far, by the way. I'm learning a lot. This is awesome.
Thanks, Mark. So hello, everyone. My name is Brianna Wilson. I'm an account executive here at Benchmark, and we are so excited to have our next guest speaker, Dr. Jennifer Hendry-Lynn. So Dr. Jen is a naturopathic doctor with over 10 years of experience treating the community of Cambridge, Ontario, and the surrounding areas. She's passionate about helping women and their families thrive, and it is a goal of hers to provide treatments that address the root causes of symptoms in the body. In addition, she has a strong background in digestion, autoimmune diseases, weight loss, allergies, and skin disorders. Dr. Jen graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Health Sciences with first-class honors from Brock University. When it was time to apply to postgraduate school, she decided to pursue a career in naturopathic medicine. She attended the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine in Toronto, Ontario, and 4 years later graduated with honors as a Doctor of Naturopathic Medicine. After completing 8 years of post-secondary education, Dr. Jen is a primary healthcare provider practicing a combination of contemporary and alternate medicine. She's a fully registered naturopathic doctor with the College of Naturopaths of Ontario and an active member of both the Ontario Association of Naturopathic Doctors and the Canadian Association of Naturopathic Doctors. So now I would love to welcome Dr. Jen to the stage.
Hi.
Hello, Jen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I'm so excited. You know, this is, I think, a really important topic. I always love to talk about wellness. I think it's something that we tend to overlook in our busy day-to-day lives, but I know how important it is. So I'm so excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I know I kind of want to jump in. We have a lot to cover. My first question that I kind of wanted to ask you is, what exactly does the acronym SELF stand for?
SELF is an acronym to help us easily remember the 4 pillars of health. A lot of people are always trying to get healthy, and I think if we break it down into 4 easy pillars, so sleep, exercise, lifestyle, and food, it's easy to remember that we need to look after ourselves. When I talk to a lot of people in my office, they're really good usually at 1, maybe 2 things when they come in, but then it's really rare that someone is really doing great on all 4 fronts.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, I find, kind of to touch on the first pillar of sleep, I find that, you know, I always go to bed at the same time. And if I don't, I really notice that it affects my day. So I'm wondering, how many hours of sleep do you think we need to get?
So adults in general should get about 7 to 9 hours of sleep, with some adults doing wonderful at 6 hours and some adults just needing 10 hours regularly. We sleep about 36% of our life, which is a big number. So if you live to 90, you're sleeping for 32 years. And I just find that amazing because we don't necessarily put the emphasis on that. There was a study that came out in 1997. It's a little bit older now, and it was in Australia, and it looked at the effects of people who didn't sleep. So if they had been awake for 24 hours, they actually found that they were more impaired than if they actually had a blood alcohol level that was actually making them clinically or on the roadside actually drunk. So sleep is really important.
Yeah, I believe that. And then do you think that having a very particular schedule is important as well?
Absolutely. I mean, as humans, we really like to do the exact same thing every single day. So, most people get up out of bed on the exact same side. They go in, maybe go to the washroom first, go grab a cup of coffee, or go get their gym stuff. But we all do the exact same routine every morning. And as soon as we stray from that routine, we don't do as well. And that's the same for bed. So when we go to bed at the exact same time every night, and we have the exact same routine every night, our body goes, okay, I'm in bed now, time to go to sleep. When you try to go to bed at 9 and then go to bed at 1 and then go to bed at 11, your body maybe just can't figure out exactly what you're trying to do. And then you're not getting the great sleep that you should be getting.
Yes, yes. I'm an avid 10 p.m. That always gets
That's
my
great.
day good the next day.
Yeah, exactly. 10 o'clock is a great time to go to bed.
Yeah. So for the next pillar of exercise, how much exercise would you say we should be getting?
Well, currently, Health Canada advises that we get 150 minutes or 2.5 hours a week. So about 30 minutes a day or about 20 minutes, 7 days a week. So I know a lot of us are busy. And so if we break that down into numbers, there's over 10,000. So 10,080 minutes a week. So 150 minutes in a week is 1.4% of your time. And sometimes when I break it down like that for people, because I think we often don't make time for exercise, it's like, oh, okay, only 1.4% of my time, right? We really want to do a combination of strength exercises and aerobic exercises. So we really want to focus on maybe walking, maybe adding some like weights in there in the week, just to really sort of improve our overall body composition.
Yeah. And personally, I always find I like to get a little bit of exercise in first thing in the morning. That always works best for me, kind of starts my day off right. How do you
Yeah.
think, is there like a more beneficial time to work out, morning or night, or just any time you can fit it?
Well, okay. So yes, there is definitely a better time. I think that during the day, so morning often works best for people if you can get it out of the way, because then it's just not taking up precious time during the rest of the day. When you do it before bed, you're rising your cortisol levels. And cortisol is the hormone that's opposite to melatonin, melatonin being our sleep hormone. So if we raise cortisol in the evening, then we're not going to sleep. And maybe exercise isn't as great either because cortisol is naturally higher in the morning. Yeah, so morning I think is a really great time as long as it works for your schedule. And if you're someone who's like, well, I can never work out in the morning, it's just not for me, then do it whenever you can, right? Maybe you go for a walk in the evening with your dog and it's not a vigorous walk, but it's a walk and you're moving. I mean, so many of us work from home right now. And so we don't even walk from our cars to our buildings anymore. So it's really important that we just incorporate movement into our days.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, I always start off during the first thing in the morning. That's the first thing I like to do. And I find it keeps me
Yeah,
wakes me up. It gives me a lot of energy for the day. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, so with regards to the third pillar, which is lifestyle. So I'm wondering what
Mhm.
exactly it means when you say that lifestyle is one of the pillars of an overall healthy lifestyle.
Yes, exactly. So we're using the word twice, absolutely. And it works really nicely in the acronym. But really, I break down lifestyle into two things. So it's stress management and self-care. I think stress and self-care are two major areas of our life that we need to make sure that we're watching. A lot of people in my office, I ask about stress. It's a routine question I ask, especially on the first visit. Like, do you have stress or how would you rate your stress? Some people tell me like 10 out of 10, it's like the worst, maybe 11 out of 10. Like they just can't deal with stress. It's too much. Some people are like 0. I don't have stress. And I mean, I would love that people don't have stress, but it's usually not the case. And then there's everyone else who's somewhere in between on any given day, right? But really it's how we cope with our stress, right? That's really important, because I always tell people, I can't get rid of your stress. If I had a magic wand and I could bibbidi bobbidi boo it away, I would. But most of us, again, just don't have the ability to get rid of it. So we need to learn to cope with it better. And that can be learned. So you can learn to do meditation. There's apps for it now. We can learn to do deep breathing. There's a simple exercise. It's called square breathing that you can do anytime. So you just take a breath in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. And just doing that for a few times around will just definitely reset your stress, and just sort of calm the mind. And that's where the self-care really comes in as well, because if we're not ever taking time to do the things that we like, just doing things that we need to do or things that others want us to do and not what we want to do, then we don't feel so good. So if you love to grab a coffee with a friend, and even if it's a FaceTime coffee these days, do that. If you love to have a bath, then do that. If you love to do a craft or do a hobby, then do that. You need to make time to do these activities that maybe don't make us money or aren't necessarily essential for us to survive in the day, just because we need to look after ourselves in order to be, mastering the rest of these components to a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I find, when I take some time, and again, it is hard to find the time sometimes, but whenever I take a little bit of time just to do something that I like, one of my hobbies, for me, I like to read. I always find that, I come out in like a better mood. It kind of brings me back to center a bit.
Absolutely. And reading's great because it really you can't think and read at the same time.
Yes.
So you really just focus your attention on what you're reading, hopefully, and just calm the mind for a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so I know we're getting a little bit close to the end of our session, so I do want to touch on the last pillar with you, and I'm sure that this is a large one for everyone, and I know for me, one of the hardest things I have to focus on. So I'm wondering if you have any tips to kind of improve eating habits, because, I know with so many different types of diets coming up, we all have a really hard time kind of knowing what to eat.
Absolutely. I think that we got to reframe the word diet, because it's not a 4-letter word. We all eat food every single day. It's mandatory. So it's just what we're putting into our body, whether it's good or bad. But I think we do need to really find the individual foods that make us feel great. So that can sometimes be figuring out food sensitivities or allergies that maybe are making you not feel great. Sometimes you're eating like a really awesome diet and you can't figure out why you're bloated or gassy or just feel lousy all the time. And it could be you're eating something that doesn't agree with your body. I always recommend eating lots of fruits and vegetables, which isn't as easy, and really trying to increase the vegetables as well, because fruits are easier. They are a little bit easier. They come like prepackaged. You can grab an apple and eat it, whereas your vegetables usually take some prep and some cooking. But I mean, yeah, fruits and vegetables, you can never go wrong. Increase them. And I always tell people as well in my office to keep your sugars under 26 grams per day. And so I just grabbed a bar from our front desk that's here. So like just a bar here has a nutritional label on the back, and then it'll have sugar. So this one has 6 grams of sugar per day. So really, again, adding up that 6 plus if you put something in your coffee, plus if you added ketchup to something, adding it up over the day and trying to keep that number on under 26 grams. So it's quite a bit of sugar, but I mean, one can of Coke, for instance, has like well over 30. So it's really just being mindful about what you're putting into your body.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. This was so helpful. It was great talking with you. Those are some really helpful tips.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you for having me. It was I've really enjoyed the speakers that I've gotten a chance to watch too so far.
Thank you. Okay, take care. All right, so it's now my pleasure to welcome Gisela Carreri to the stage.
Thank you so much, Brianna. Thank you so much, Dr. Jen. I always enjoy anything to do with wellness, anything new that we can learn to better ourselves, both physically and mentally. It's always so great. Guys, folks, have you enjoyed the summit so far? Are you having a good time? I know Mark Anthony was great. All of our speakers have been so great. Our sponsors, thank you for being here. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our last speaker of the afternoon. Station is the executive director of Weston Frontline Center, a youth charity in Toronto, which offers children and youth a safe, welcoming place away from the streets. She's also founder of the international organization Braids for AIDS, as well as professor at Sheridan College in the School of Social. Station is incredibly recognized. Some of the organizations that have recognized Station are L'Oreal Paris as top 10 women of worth in Canada, 100 Accomplished Black Women Network, Black History Ottawa, the High Commission of Trinidad and Tobago, YMCA Canada, How She Hassles with CBC Toronto, Black Health Alliance, and the Minister of Immigration and Citizenship. And most recently, a winner of the top 100 powerful women in Canada. Please, let's welcome to the stage, Station.
Hello.
Hi, Station. It's so good to see you.
Yes, thank you for having me. Thank you for that introduction. Sometimes it's difficult hearing about myself and all the different things that I have on the go.
Incredible. I think it's incredible. Such an inspiration, Station. And I so appreciate you making the time for us today. Should we get right to it? I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I always learn from you. Every time we chat, I walk away feeling inspired and always learning something new. As an executive director of Frontlines and also having your own organization, Station Braids for AIDS, you must have had encounters where there were many challenges in the workplace when it came to social inequalities and biases. Perhaps could you share some of those experiences with us today?
Sure. As I was listening to some of these sessions just before, Jennifer speaking and even having laughter as part of your life, somebody with the intersectionality, so looking at race, gender, and age. And so, looking at some of the challenges that I have is around racism, sexism, ageism, and many different, individuals may have their own intersectionality and even dealing with things such as mental health. And so, in order for people to get to a place of, being able to focus on self, and I listened to that acronym around, sleep and exercise and lifestyle and food, it's about the work environment that they're even being part of and the stresses that they have of life. And so for me, in terms of my career, has been, dealing with some of these external challenges to become, successful. And that's what I want for people to also take away from this, is that for your employees to be good and healthy, they're also dealing with some of these work dynamics, and they won't be their best self, and they're not going to be productive for your organization if there's workplace challenges. And so, of course, all of that is what I've had to deal with in my career, of dealing with those challenges, but also in terms of trying to mobilize resources for the community that I serve. And sometimes people are not aware of the deep sort of structural issues that exist within communities. When we hear about violence, for example, in these communities, not realizing that there is a mental health sort of attachment to violence. Again, when young people experience racism, there's a mental health attachment to those particular issues. And so in my conversations and with yourself and many others, is helping people realize the impact that some of these social, issues, and that the responsibility that corporations and government and many individuals have to, start looking at about improving, the communities, because it does have a real life effect on the people that work within your organizations.
You could not be more right, Station. And sometimes we overlook that, right? Sometimes we're just seeing what's right in front of us, but we really don't take into account that everybody has their own story. Everybody's going through their own challenges. And it's just taking the time to perhaps just put ourselves into those person's shoes that could start taking steps towards making a difference.
Absolutely.
Station, how do you propose we eliminate or reduce such injustices in the social service?
Yeah. I think one of the things, and we had this in our conversation, and I think it is about people starting to become comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes.
Many of these conversations around diversity and social inclusion, these are centuries of issues that is not going to change overnight. But there must be a willingness to hear, to engage in conversations, and to understand that there will be elements where you don't get it wrong. But when you are challenged by, racialized and marginalized communities, that you don't get defensive, that you stay in that moment of silence, in that moment of uncomfortable, and say, my apologies. I didn't realize that this had an impact. So many different times I hear people, I would speak, and people would say, oh, you're so articulate. And I say, well, what else did you not expect? And so just something even simple as that. Or, someone, calling up to me and saying that they want to support the youth in the community. And then they just make a comment that is not, it's really, it's to be quite frank, a bit racist. But I understand that the person was not coming from that place. But it's when I do have those conversations and I do say, hey, I just want to mention to you that this is how it came out, that the person was able to receive it. And so that is the difference. When you look at allyship, it's about how are you able to receive when people say that, hey, this wasn't, appropriate, and that they're able to work back. So I think it starts with self, actually, right? It is that it comes back to that same thing. It's all on understanding of self-awareness. And that we all have privilege, and we all, whether it's having the other aspect of being oppressed. So I understand that, yes, because I am Black, I'm a woman, and, I do have a youthful face, that there's some elements where there would be people who would want to see my social location as being one of oppressed. However, I'm highly educated, and I have come from a specific, background. And so that has given me a certain level of privilege. And so I also am an ally for those who live in poverty. Right. So it doesn't necessarily mean just because, that you are of, a certain background, that you don't have any, agency and ability to create change. We all have it within our circle of influence, and we must use our privilege in whatever aspect that we have to support the communities that we are part of. And our communities start with ourselves, our family, the schools, it starts expanding. And I think it's moving along that trajectory of seeing where you can be able to support.
I think you're right on point, Station, and it's true. It starts within each of us, right? Educating ourselves, taking responsibility and accountability for our own views, whether they're correct, incorrect, and you're absolutely right. The change starts with each and every one of us. So well said. We have one more question for you, Station. On a global scale, do you think that social inequalities and prejudiced views are prevalent in the developing countries as well as in the developed ones?
Oh, that's a very loaded question, because I think it is a very interesting. So even, for example, when I engage with corporations, or I deal with individuals, at the end of the day, that you're dealing with human beings. So whether you're in developed countries or you're in, developing countries, you're dealing with human beings. And, there has been studies which looked at, the blue eye versus the brown eye, black dolls versus white dolls, and socialization. There are so many different layers of colonialization, of sexism, ageism, that it's not just only in Canada, and it's not just only in the Caribbean or in Africa. This is has been powerful structural, different forms of ism that has perpetuated both in Canada or all developed countries, and because Columbus did not stay in Spain. He
That's
took
right. That's right.
of the ideologies and translated it down to different countries. So we all hold these biases in all different sort of communities. And so it just presents itself differently. So, for example, in Trinidad, where I grew up, what you would have more seen, now I understood from the global perspective of racism and seeing TV shows such as Roots, or reading the books such as Roots, understanding on the global level. But then in Trinidad, where the majority of the leaders, business leaders, were Black, and that's who I saw, what I more saw was colorism.
Right.
So that people who are light skinned are given more preference that of people who are of darker complexions. And so there were still those isms that existed. And so I don't think that there's a separation, but I think for developed countries, especially those who were part of transatlantic slavery, and some of these things have an even higher responsibility around dismantling the systems that help create, sort of these structural inequalities in society.
Absolutely, Station. And I know, when, so many of the participants today joining us, Station, are in either a form of leadership role or, part of a team that they are directing. And so sometimes those leaders tend to stay quiet, right? If something comes up, they just don't want to say the wrong thing. And they think, if I stay quiet, then I can't get in trouble. What are your thoughts around that?
A great question. Recently, I was part of a session and it talked about performative silence allyship. If you be quiet, you're not moving the needle. It is as best as doing something bad if you're being quiet. We no longer can be quiet, because it's in those quietness that we see that, George Floyd has passed away. And that's why I had really liked the piece around, when there was the campaign around, women in Hollywood, or just sexual abuse in different, workplaces. And the sort of tagline that also went was "Time is up."
Right.
Like, we can no longer, be silent on things. So I encourage the employers to have those conversations, have, mentors, have people when something does come up, that you are able to lean on people to get advice. I think having a diversity, social inclusion specialist within your organization is key and important, because it's going to be more and more conversations. There was a study done that stated that, a couple of things. One, even from a business perspective, NASDAQ stated that, they're going to delist companies from the stock market if they don't have a certain percentage of people on their boards, right?
Yeah.
There's another study where more and more people who are entering into the workplace are looking for their companies to have a piece around corporate social responsibility. So one, from a perspective of attracting proper talent, people are looking at what you're doing. So if you're being silent, people are going to say, I don't want to work for this company. So you're going to lose, good talent.
Really good people, yeah.
If you're looking to expand your organization by getting capital funds to invest in your company, and NASDAQ and many of these stock markets saying that we're not going to put you on the particular thing if you don't have this diversity you're also losing capital and funding for your organization. But I mean, there's so many different business cases for diversity. Why having diversity of thought, being a champion for diversity is best for your organization. I don't need to necessarily preach on that. There's so much data on that thing. So definitely employers should not be silent on that topic.
And on that station, as always, so fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us, your insights. So appreciative of your time today, station. Hopefully you can stay with us for the next 15 minutes as we will be having a little bit more networking, and perhaps some of our participants would like to connect with you. With that, station, thank you so much. I'd like to welcome the rest of the Benchmark team on stage with me today, please, as we have our closing remarks as we move on to the last 15 minutes of the afternoon with you. It is our hope that you have enjoyed our very first summit, something that was kind of born from all of the webinars that we've done for almost a year now since the pandemic happened. As I mentioned at the beginning of our event, community is at the very top for Benchmark, and making sure that we can continue to connect with you. It's so important for us. It's so important for our community. So thank you so much. Thank you to our wonderful speakers for sharing your knowledge and your time with us. Thank you for our wonderful sponsors for helping us make this happen. To the Benchmark team for always bringing it on and making sure that our community is looked after. And a very special thanks to Giorgio, Brianna, and Nicole, because without them, really today would not have happened. They've worked really hard to bring this to you today. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you'll be able to network with us a little bit for the next 15 minutes. There will be actually, before I forget, a couple of more things. There will be a survey that you'll be able to see on the chat box in regards to today's summit. Please do give us your feedback so we know how we can continue to service you. And also, we will be announcing the winners of the giveaways from our sponsors in our February newsletter. So do look out for that. Once again, always appreciative. Thank you so much. Continue to have fun for the next 15 minutes, and I hope to see you all very soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.